unfriendly. And so I told them we don't want to. Spain has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people. They're great people, but they don't have great leadership. And as you know, they were the only country that NATO would not agree to go up to fight.
So the president takes to the microphone in a press conference. I shouldn't say a press conference. He's meeting with the German chancellor in the Oval Office, and he takes this opportunity to answer questions about what has taken place in Iran. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com. Now, I'm trying to bring it to you. Producer Landon, I might need you to bring it up because my audio seems rather low here. I'm not sure why I'm only getting a single channel on this, but I wanted to share with you the presser in its entirety. It may not let me.
100%. I don't think they would have agreed to go up to anything.
Not coming across. That is too bad. The president has a lot to get into here because a lot of people taking a look at what's going on in Iran seem to have a very, very odd construct of what has taken place. And this is what happens when you listen to people like Joe Barr of The View, who are purposeful in not having an understanding of what the bloody heck is going on.
A lot of angry people.
You know, there's something fishy about why he did it to me. I don't trust him anyway, and they all lie. But why is he really doing this? First of all, he knows that his administration is in trouble because people want the prices of food to go down. They want eggs to go down. They want gas to go down.
Eggs is down and gas is down. It's this that sent gas prices back up. You wouldn't do this if you wanted gas prices to stay down. We're seeing gas prices come up. We're seeing barrel prices go up. So she's practiced in the art of stupidity here.
And things are going up because of this. Gas is now at a higher point. The Dow dropped 880 points this morning. Oil prices are up 10%.
Right.
So why would he do it? She's countering her own argument now. This is what comes across as what? Intellectual. And yet there are plenty of Karens out there who watch this all day. And they believe this.
Why is he doing this? Possibly it's a distraction, like a wag the dog situation.
I don't think this one is.
You don't. One of my friends.
This is the crew that thinks everything is about Epstein at all times. These people are fundamentally dense. The latest out of Iran is that every time the Iranians move, the Americans and the Israelis know exactly where they're at. There is not a moment where they aren't aware of where the Iranians are and what they're doing. As a matter of fact, there was a meeting set today to decide who the new Ayatollah would be, and that meeting got bombed. The so-called leadership in one room to pick a new Ayatollah and gone. Now, there's been much conversation about what transpired to bring this about. Were the Israelis going to move and then the United States said, well, if they move, we are going to find ourselves in a place of being attacked ourselves, so we're going to have to engage first? I don't believe that That's what Marco Rubio is saying, and I don't believe that is what indeed transpired. What I would be more willing to believe is that Israel said, here's what's coming. And the United States said, well, then we need to take this moment. That our own intelligence engaged the same. And that if there was not movement, there would have been potential hits on American targets, and we wanted to be proactive. I have no problem with proaction. I have no problem with taking out this regime. And I find the people who do have a problem taking out this regime, communists. Pathetic and sick and twisted. I do think, just for the sake of clarity, before we get into President Trump, as we've got better audio now, I do think it is more than okay, more than acceptable for us to ask how we should be dealing with these situations. I think it's more than fine for Americans to discuss what it is that we want and how it is we want it. What do we want to see? And do we want this kind of attack? Americans get to make that call. Screaming, well, you see, he's trying to distract from the Epstein files. It's just stupid. I've used stupid more in the past 2 days than I have in the past 2 years. But my God, some of these people are just freaking dumb. It's an ignorant point of view. It's the kind of thing you do on social media and has no bearing in real life. And I'm only interested in the people who want to have a rational conversation. The people screaming that Iran is a sovereign state and it's President Trump and it's the United States that's the aggressor and the terrorist. Stop talking, you weirdos. You speak for no one. You speak for the worst. And the problem is we send our kids out there to universities and others to be indoctrinated into this trash. Pull your kids out of the Ivy Leagues. The Ivy Leagues is diseased stuff, not connected to reality. Stop sending your kids to University of Michigan. Go blue. Bye, blue. We don't need it. We shouldn't want it. Your kids are not better off because they go to Berkeley. As a matter of fact, they're worse off. They're completely disconnected from reality. That said, President Trump is with the German chancellor and answering questions about what's going on in Iran.
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready and we were ready. And we've had a very, very powerful impact because.
Now, it's interesting because, as I stated, the Rubio commentary, people are like, oh, so Israel forced you into it, or you couldn't stop Israel from doing this. The United States could stop Israel from doing anything. And the United States could have, if they wanted to use force, stopped Israel from continuing the onslaught of Hamas. But they didn't. I'm sorry, we didn't. Just like other nations didn't. Because as much as Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are upset, I mean, screw them, there were still some Democrats who understood that life without Hamas is better for everybody. When it became fashionable to scream genocide like a bunch of freaks, well, that's when Chris Van Hollen and the rest fell into that line. But by that moment, it was already too late. Nothing was going to stop the Israelis from taking out Hamas. But now the president saying, we forced Israel's hand. But the argument is they thought Iran was going to attack. There have been stories out about how it was clear that the Iranians were agreeing to deals, and then we blew it all up. Maybe that isn't the case. Now, I'm in favor of taking out the Ayatollah and the regime anyway. These are terrorists and sponsors of terrorism. There's no way to have a safe society with them there, and you can't have a better Middle East with them there. Right? You can't create a better world with terrorists who are engaged in terrorism. But now we're playing the game of where does the credit go? And this is classic Trump. No. The strength was ours and ours alone. I've got more from the press conference now that I've got the good audio. Thank you, producer Landon. I will share that with you coming up. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Let me see. All right. So I've got more on this. Guys, good to be with you. Glad you're here. Glad that you are watching. Is this NATO also saying that Iran was on the brink of obtaining a nuclear weapon? I mean, I've got the audio from Witkoff. I should write that down. Speaking to exactly that they had the ability to enrich the uranium to 90% weapons grade, and they were able. That allegedly, the Iranians said, "We're going to do this. We're going to make this happen." Now, let me see if I've got this too. Sorry, I just want to get a couple of these things together. There it is. Okay, now I've got it together. Good enough. So, what else is going on? I do want to get into this because he got into a whole bunch of stuff, and I want to hear it from the president directly. So I hope you're all right with that. We'll get into this. We'll get into more of this, but I will share with you the Witkoff commentary, but the stuff from Joy Behar is just so classic in its ignorance, and it's everywhere. My social media feed is replete with anti-Zionist freaks and people accusing me of dual loyalty and just embarrassing nonsense. Embarrassing nonsense. It's not going to end. I mean, it hasn't. It's been going on now for over a year, and this is just going to amplify it. There are people who really think that the Iranian regime is of no threat to us, and this is forever war, and it's keeping us from peace. These people are weak. These people have soft heads. It's not worthy of time or attention. Now, someone's asking a question. I don't know who Drew is, but can I tell you the trolling has reached epic proportions. It's crazy, the stuff that I see. Absolutely nuts. Just delete, gone, goodbye, move on. What are you going to do? If you take all these people seriously, they will absolutely destroy you. They will. They will destroy you. if you take this seriously, if you take them seriously.
Thousand roughly kilograms of fissionable material. That's broken up into roughly 460 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, another 1,000 kilograms of 20% enriched uranium, and the balance is at 3.67. They manufacture their own centrifuges to enrich this material. So there's almost no stopping them. They have an endless supply of it. The 60% material, Sean, can be brought to 90%. That's weapon grade.
90% enriched uranium is weapons grade. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. This is Steve Witkoff on with Sean Hannity on Fox News last night, where he was there. Remember, he's the guy doing the negotiation, and he is very, very, very clear
Weapons grade
on what it is that the Iranians said.
In roughly 1 week, maybe 10 days at the outside. The 20% can be brought to weapons grade inside of 3 to 4 weeks. And let me say this, because I forgot this small little detail. In that first meeting, both the Iranian negotiators said to us directly, with no shame, that they controlled 460 kilograms of 60%. And they're aware that that could make 11 nuclear bombs. And that was the beginning of their negotiating stance.
So maybe, just maybe, they weren't negotiating in good faith. But as I said, President Trump holding the meeting in the Oval Office with the German Chancellor and answered a series of questions about what's going on in Iran.
Virtually everything they have has been knocked out now. Their missile count is going way down. Amazingly, they're hitting countries that were, let's call them neutral, right? They lived together for a long time. I think they were surprised. I was surprised. And now those countries are all fighting against them and fighting strongly against them. Someday they'll write a story and they'll say why they did that. But they hit countries that had nothing to do with what's going on. They were so.
As we discussed, as sending missiles towards Qatar, towards Kuwait, towards Jordan. None of it made any sense. But my argument is, when you take a look at the Abraham Accords, it all makes sense. Iran has been very, very, very much isolated. And that's a good thing. Now, does it cause them to lash out? Absolutely. But these other nations want the future where they're not having to live under the threat of the Iranians being weird. They would much rather have the peace. They may still hate Israel. They may still hate Jews. They may still hate each other for all I know. But the Iranians were a problem. And none of them are sad that Iran is gone. And yet Iran, which might have wanted to depend on them still for some kind of loyalty and maybe defense and maybe help and maybe worldwide recognition. Nope. They send missiles at them. Crazy. Back to the president.
Sort of leaving everything alone. All of a sudden they had missiles shot in, which shows you the level of evil that we're dealing with. They'll hit people that were actually at least somewhat friendly. And they had no problems with it. Also hitting only civilian places, hotels and apartment buildings, and we're hitting them where it is much more appropriate. We're hitting them very hard. And the big scale hitting goes now. They no longer have air protection. They no longer have any detection facilities at all left. And so they're gonna be in for a lot of hurt. These are bad people. These are people that killed. I guess it's 35,000. It's coming out 35,000 over the last 3 weeks. Protesters, 35,000 violently killed.
Now, to that number, we've heard the number is 40,000. And then, of course, you've got leftists. Who's the chick on the Young Turks? Anna, starts with a K. Last name is K. She was on with Piers Morgan. She's like, I don't believe that number. That number seems ridiculous. It's widely reported that this is the number. Why does the number seem ridiculous? Because you don't want to believe it? Because it's always got to be about Israel? Look, I'm not going to change the minds of the people who are anti-Israel and think this is all about Israel, and I'm not even trying to. Kasparian, thank you. Thank you there, chat room, watching the live stream on YouTube. Just go to Tony Katz and subscribe. Appreciate that. You don't want to believe it? I don't care. This isn't a number that just got invented. It's when you don't believe the Gaza Health Ministry, that makes sense because they're liars. When you've got multiple agencies and multiple groups and multiple sources, worthy sources, saying this is the number, is anybody in doubt that the Iranian regime was killing protesters? And what number would have been okay with you? 7? 7,000? 17,000? It's not 35,000. How about 35 or 350 or 3,500? What number would be okay with Anna Kasparian? Does the regime need to go? Are we better off without it? I argue the answer is yes, but I don't think there's anything wrong with people having that conversation. Let's ask ourselves and let's go over it. Screaming some political rote thing about peace or about Israel, that's just all stupid talk. And I really do apologize. I never used the word. I've just used it so much, but it is what it is. And I think it's a level of exhaustion. I do. Not actual tired, just sick and tired of this crap. Can we ask ourselves whether or not this is what we want based on what it is we want, not based on some kind of ideological retreat to the fiefdom of, well, it's the Israelis, well, it's this, well, it's that, well, it's, oh, good Lord. Back to President Trump.
So these are bad people, and the leader of the pack is gone. And as you know, 49 people were taken out in the first hit. And I guess there was another hit today on the new leadership, and it looks like that was pretty substantial also. So they're getting hit very hard, and we'll see what happens.
That's the group that was getting together to vote for a new leader, and they got hit by the Israelis. The people who were coming together to vote for their new leader in the regime, they all got hit. True story.
A lot of people are coming forward. A lot of the people you would least suspect want to quit. They want to have immunity. They're asking for immunity, and probably at some point they'll be dropping, as you would say, laying down their guns. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, we're just continuing to go forward. Our military is the number one in the world by far, and we are. Everything's big in my book. Venezuela was big. This is big. The original hit, Midnight Hammer, was big. Everything you view is big, but it's not considered very big by some standards, by some of our standards. We have a military like no other military that's ever been built.
Yeah, please. Mr. President, what's the worst case scenario that you have planned for in Iran?
By the way, that's a very acceptable question. What is the worst case scenario you have planned for? That is a very acceptable question.
Well, I don't know if there's a worst case. We have them very much beaten militarily from the military standpoint. They're still lobbing some missiles. At some point, they won't even be able to do that because we're hitting all of their carriers. We're hitting all of their missile stock. You know, they built up all these missiles over the last few years. They had a lot of them. They've shot a lot of them, and we're knocking out a lot. I guess the worst case would be we do this, and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous.
And that's something you got to look out for. Keep it here. It's Tony Katz today. So, yeah, that's a worst case. I absolutely and wholeheartedly agree. That is it. By the way, people have you seen this video? Oh my gosh. I'm going to try and get it up there. Have you seen this video of the pilot? Somebody put it in the chat room. Chris put it in the chat room. And he's like, the video of the female pilot is incredible. I don't know if you've seen this here.
You're fine? Really? You need something to help you? No problem. You're safe. You're safe. You're safe. Everything good? No problem. Thank you for helping us. Everything perfect?
That is a female pilot. She had to eject. I believe that was Kuwait, where it was friendly fire that took, by the way, that is something we have to look into. Friendly fire that took down one of our fighter jets, and she ejected. There's another video of, I don't think it's a female pilot, and that one, I could be wrong, where like some guys come up to him, and he's like, whoa, I'm American. They thought he was Iranian. They're like, they've got a pipe in their hand, like, we're ready to do damage. They didn't realize he was American at first. It's incredible. Thank you for helping us. The end. The end. And the people who are really opposed to this, you know, it's one thing to be opposed to it. It's one thing to say, nah, I don't think we should have done this. I think we could have handled this in other ways. Oh, okay. It's another thing to say that America bad, America evil because of this, America's the problem, right? And then you get like silly stuff like this right here. Yeah, we don't have to pay any attention to that kind of stuff. And that's the stuff, you know, when I use the term stupid, I really, as a matter of guiding principles as a host, I really do avoid that stuff. I think dumb and stupid end debate. They end conversations. They always have. And so I try my best not to use those terms. But lately, man, it's the only thing that fits these people. It's the only thing that connects. See, this is it. All right, so this is a guy who thinks Trump is a liar. But then he says, America and Israel are the real terrorists of the world. No part of that is true. No part of that is factual. Everybody can see that you're not serious. I don't know why you say it. It's just not real. No world is better where the United States is not on top. That may offend, but that's your problem. Just the facts. Only America on top creates a better society, creates a better world. In Israel ain't your problem. What is the terrorism? These other nations wanting to kill them, these other nations not willing to accept deals, these other nations getting everything they want, saying, no, it's not enough, writing charters where they say they want dead Jews. What are you talking about, Danny? You come across cuckoo. Could you stop? And these are the people we just need to ignore. The people, these communist groups and others, these anarcho-Kasparians, they need to be ignored. It's an unserious proposition that they're putting forward, which will bring us to Tucker Carlson, but give me a minute on that. Back to the show. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. We continue now with President Trump answering questions about what's going on in Iran. He had the Oval Office meeting with the Chancellor of Germany, Helmut Kohl. And no, it's not Helmut Kohl. How old am I? Who am I thinking of? Yes, Helmut Kohl's the old chancellor. This is Frederick Merz. That is correct. Good Lord. Wait, when was Helmut Kohl the chancellor that I went to Helmut Kohl? Okay, we're talking about the late 90s? West Germany and then reunified Germany. Good on me. Good on me. Well done, Katz. Nice Biden moment right there. Excellent, excellent work. I need to be immediately checked. But back to President Trump.
Person, right? That could happen. We don't want that to happen. It would probably be the worst. You go through this, and then in 5 years, you realize you put somebody in who is no better. So we'd like to see somebody in there that's going to bring it back for the people. And we'll see what happens with the people. You know, they have their chance. And we've said, don't do it yet. If you're going to go out and protest, don't do it yet. It's very dangerous out there. A lot of bombs are being dropped. but I would say that would be about the worst.
Do you have someone in mind right now? Because you said all the people you did have in mind have been taken out. What do you
Well,
think
most of the
ends up
people we had in
on
mind are dead. So, we had some in mind from that group that is dead.
Can I discuss how much that bothers me? Why in the world could you pick anybody from a group that would continue this level of regime? And how did he get killed? Was he part of the meeting to pick a new Ayatollah? That's not somebody you can have a relationship with. Not at all. That kind of stuff freaks me out.
And now we have another group. They may be dead also, based on reports. So I guess you have a third wave coming in. Pretty soon we're not going to know anybody. But we have, Venezuela was so incredible because we did the attack and we kept government totally intact. And we have Delcy, who's been very good. We have the whole chain of command, and they've been, look, the relationship's been great. We've taken out 100 million barrels of oil already. And a big part of that goes to them and a big part goes to us. And it's been great. We paid for the war many times over.
Delcy is Delcy Rodriguez, who's part of the Maduro regime that's still in power. So it's not going great, but understand this is what Trump does. This is how he talks. This is not new to anybody. Delcy will be in power until she's not. Just that easy.
And we're going to be running the oil. And Venezuela is going to make more money than they ever made. And that's great for the people. The relationship has been great. It's been seamless. Nobody's actually ever seen anything like it. If you look at Iraq, where very stupidly everybody was fired, the generals were fired, the military was fired, the police were fired, the fire departments were fired, and all of the government workers were fired. So after, people would call, they had no idea. And by the way, ISIS was formed. That's where ISIS came from, all of the fired people. We don't believe in that. So we'll see what happens. But first, we have to finish off the military.
What do you think about Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi? Is he an option at all in your mind?
I guess he is. Some people like him, and we haven't been thinking about too much about that. It would seem to me that somebody from within maybe would be more appropriate. I've said that. He looks like a very nice person, but it would seem to me that somebody that's there, that's currently popular, if there's such a person. But we have people like that. We have people that were more moderate. These were radical lunatics. And you know what they get? They get nothing. All they do is kill people.
You have to make the assumption, and knowing Trump a little bit, there are some things that move him and some things that, for lack of a better word, that haunt him. And he looks at Iraq and he says, I'm not going to put myself in that position. He looks at Libya and the taking out of Gaddafi, and he says, I'm not going to put myself in that position where you have nobody to fill the void. And then, was a world of horrors, a vacuum. And what'd you get? The Muslim Brotherhood. And it was worse. So one has to assume that there are names and there are people, whether it's the Crown Prince or others, that it isn't just a shot in the dark. And you say to me, so the U.S. and Israel and other nations might choose who's going to lead Iran. And allow me to say, I think that's absolutely what's going to happen. Absolutely. So, Tony, you admit that this is a regime change. Oh, 10,000% it's regime change. Are we friends? Well, all of a sudden we lie to each other? Not me, not for a second. No chance. Absolutely, it's regime change. Absolutely. I don't know why we would say anything else. I heard Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, Secretary of Defense, saying that the other day. This isn't regime change. Of course it is. Well, we're just setting the stage so that they can choose for themselves. Fine. It's regime change. That is what it is. I don't know why we would somehow not be totally honest about it. But back to the president, as he spoke just earlier in this White House Oval Office meeting with the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, and definitely not Helmut Kohl, because this is not the 1980s.
You've asked, not your turn. Not your turn, please.
Mr. President, are you going to take the heat off the Europeans to pretend to be helping Mark Rutte call on the allies to also help you?
What does that mean?
Well, you have to ask Mark Rutte if he said not as part of NATO.
Not sure the question being asked here. I don't know who he admonished.
Well, some of the European nations have been helpful and some haven't. And I'm, very surprised. Germany's been great. He's been terrific. Others have been very good, terrific. I think that the head of NATO, Mark, is fantastic. Okay, Mark Rutte. I think he's fantastic. But some of the European, like Spain, has been terrible. In fact, I told Scott to cut off all dealings with Spain. Spain, first of all, it started when every European nation, at my request, paid 5%, which they should be doing. And everybody was enthusiastic about it, Germany, everybody. And Spain didn't do it. And now Spain actually said that we can't use their bases. And that's all right. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not to use it. But we don't have to. But they were unfriendly.
The Spain story is actually a big one, because Spain, like Ireland, and recognizing the state of Palestine and the virulent leftism that exists there. That is what's guiding them. And this really takes us into a larger scale conversation. It was, and I'll get back to this. The United Nations stating very clearly that they're running out of money. And the running out of money is a serious problem for them. It would be a serious problem for anybody. This was the UN spokesperson. Let me see if I can bring this to you. Just yesterday on this, I think it was yesterday, they were talking about this. Let me see if I can bring it up. Listen.
The Secretary General has, as you know, repeatedly made clear the problem both of non-payment of Jews by member states and the related problem of the UN being forced to repay member states for budget expenses that it does not budget money that it does not spend, so those two factors have put us on an unsustainable trajectory. Although
I don't think that's what's put you on the unsustainable trajectory. I think the fact that you're terrible has put you on the unsustainable trajectory. And you are. You're a terrible organization. You provide no value. Why should we think ourselves, degrade ourselves to be part of an organization with Spain or with these anti-American zealots, these bigots, these globalists? Why don't we just start over? Now, you say to me, Tony, why do we need it at all? I would argue that at all times, diplomacy and conversation are worth the effort. But the UN is not. The UN hasn't stopped any wars. The UN hasn't brought any safety or security. All the UN has done is provided cover for despots. No, we shouldn't be a part of that. We should drop that immediately, if not sooner. Absolutely, in every way. So I like hearing that they're running out of cash and that member states won't pay up? Because their answer is, well, the United States will just handle it. I don't want to handle any of it. Not an ounce. Not an ounce. Let's start over. Let's start over with better friends. Let's make that happen immediately. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz Today. Which online app are we talking about, Bruce? That's the key question. You tell me which online app, and then we can take a look at what's going on there. Well, we have, good Lord. Oh, the WIBC app. Oh, don't have an answer for what's going on there, but I can send it over to them and be like, hey, what gives? What's the deal? I can do that. Right. What else do we got? Just trying to get it all together here. We do have updates. Do we have updates out of Austin? Kevin saying it's semantics, but I read an update from one news organization calling this a conflict and not a war. Well, they could be, if there's no declaration of war, do you call it a war? Remember, it's not the Korean War, it's the Korean conflict, isn't it? I think that's still the way these things go. So they might be semantically correct, but you're making the argument it would take away from the talking points from the radical left. Maybe, but nothing. They don't mind if they lie, or they don't care if they say something proper or improper. They do what they do. They're going to say whatever they want, and they won't be held to account for it, which is pretty horrifying. So they've identified the two people who were killed in Austin, Texas, by a naturalized citizen who was wearing a hoodie that read "Property of Allah." He had a T-shirt underneath with an image of, I believe it was the Ayatollah, or is it an image of the map of Iran? And then in his home, posters of the Ayatollah, which very well, this could have been a response to the attack on Iran. Tony Katz today, good to be here, good to be with you. Considering it came on the same weekend, you have the FBI saying that there is a, quote, nexus to terrorism, unquote. They don't have the answers yet. 14 people were injured. Now, I haven't gotten word on how the shooter was taken down. I have not seen that part reported. Was that man shot by an attendee at the bar in Austin? You know, I'm a believer in buy guns, buy ammo, get trained, wholeheartedly. You understand that that's not going to necessarily stop the crazy person from doing something crazy. It's about being, it's about giving yourself the best opportunity to protect yourself and the ones you love. And that opportunity does not come if you are not prepared. Doesn't exist. Being prepared matters. And this is just sadly another reminder. It's a reminder of, one could argue, who we allow in the country. It's a reminder of, you can go through every check in the world. Sometimes you don't know what evil exists. And that we should just be prepared to deal with that evil if it should come to our doorstep or to our bar. But it's also a reminder that sometimes you do know where the evil comes from, and you do know that there are some incompatible societies and incompatible cultures, and we should say so. But that would involve the clear recognition of the difference between legal and illegal immigration, which the left refuses to talk about. Refuses to engage. So this is the latest information we have on Austin. Now, I had one other story because I do want to get into China and the oil. I also want to get into the whole big wave conversation. Oh, I also have 3 more things. Alleged proof of 2020 election fraud in Georgia. It's going to send some people crazy. Out of their minds, in the Supreme Court blocking a New York map on redistricting. I'll say it again. I didn't bring up the topic of redistricting. It wasn't my plan to begin with. But once it came up, the states should have redistricted, should have given it everything they had in order to redistrict. New York did. They're getting stopped by the Supreme Court. Will Maryland, will Virginia, depending on how those states vote on things going down the road? We'll see. And for all the people who are talking about the markets being down, oh my gosh, the markets are down because of this war. Look what Trump has done. At moments today, the market was down 1,200. And then at moments today, the market was down 600. Lord only knows where it's all going to end. But the people who want to share panic, these markets have seen themselves be very resilient. We'll see if this moment continues the same. I'm Tony Katz. Yeah, I'd had a a story, and I cannot recall what it is. I cannot. By the way, Tony, are you or WIBC, that's my home station, reporting the threat on the video of you from the other night on Facebook? Wait, what? I did an event Saturday night, and Ken was there. What threat? I mean, there's a lot of threats out there. But I'll let him answer that. I'm not sure to which you are referring. Not sure. So here's where we're at, right? We've got the break going on. Wait, so he's talking about, is somebody threatening me that I don't know about? Every day is a threat. Today's threat was the tree will be watered. Now, I took it one way and somebody else took it another way. But somebody unhappy with me and repeated multiple times that the tree will be watered. So I do this event, great event, Trump 1 year later, and I'm discussing, and we're reviewing the last year. Yeah, email me whatever you need to. Tony@TonyKatz.com. Anytime, guys, feel free. Tony@TonyKatz.com. And you can't review the last year without reviewing the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And my point was that Charlie is no different from me, no different from you. Charlie, far more popular, without question. But if you tell a whole generation of people that it's okay to engage in violence against people you disagree with, it's okay to attack them, it's okay to punch a Nazi, it's okay to shoot them, it's okay to kill them, then it doesn't matter if you're Charlie Kirk in front of 20,000 people or me in front of 2,000 people or you in front of 2 people posting something on Facebook or anything else. It doesn't matter. The person feels that they are vindicated in their violent response. So they don't like the American flag you have on your door and they come at you. That's the point. That now when I do any event, I have security with me. It's so stupid. And I believe the line that I used during the event is, I've met me. And right? That's the line I used, Landon. I've met me, and I am in no way big enough to need security. That's insane. Crazy. I'm not Shapiro or anything. I'm this. I'm me. Hey, how are you? Right? And don't get me wrong. We've got a great platform. We have a fan base, and I am very appreciative. We're not the smallest guys on the block, but I'm not that. And I need security? That's insane. That's the point. And I know that there are people on the social media who are like, oh, look at him pretending he's special. You cannot make up how insane these people are. They're violent, and then they're shocked that you are prepared for violence. Unbelievable. Now people are giving me crap online for saying Helmut Kohl. Oh God, you are all so freaking great. So freaking great. I love it. Absolutely love it. Guys, so here we are. We're going to take, we're in the radio break. We're going to take the break right now. Hang loose, smoke them if you got them. We'll be back in a little bit. Well, that was abrupt. Sorry about that. I usually try and fade the music out. Tony Katz today. I swear to you, this is true. I do the thing about, I'm talking about the German chancellor, and I said Helmut Kohl instead of Frederick Merz. Helmut Kohl, going to the 80s and 90s. And I get, I'm a Mac guy, and I get on my screen there a message from Apple News. Memory and attention disorders share symptoms in midlife, making diagnosis tricky. Is it aging or is it ADHD? I make one slip up and I'm Joe Biden. What the hell is this? And my computer knows it's creepy. Super duper creepy. Too funny. But I do want to get into the Chinese oil, because we brought this up yesterday. And then all of a sudden, Politico is out with the story, and everyone's like, Good on you. You're starting to figure out what's going on here. I'm Tony Katz. The show's Tony Katz today. Let's go do some good stuff. It's about the oil. I just want to say for the record, it's always about the oil. Is there even anything remotely new to this idea? Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. The question is it about us having it or is it about them not? People think linearly. They think in it's not linearly. They think in just one kind of phrasing. Is that the best way to say that? They don't think outside the box. What's the best way to say that they can't see the whole board? I will tell you there are moments where you don't see it. The moments where you're like, oh man, I did not see that coming. Oh, I did not see around that corner. That's true. Because when we are in our jobs and we are in our lives, our families, etc., we're thinking about the things we're thinking about. And we're not making other considerations. When we talk about the level of misdirection, for example, from the Pentagon, in the bombing of the nuclear facilities, they sent B-2 bombers out and they had a whole nother series of B-2 bombers going. That misdirection was amazing. And we don't think like that because it is not our job to think like that. Maybe in our workplace, maybe in the things that we do, we could see around the corner because we have the experience of doing so. Well, that's just it. When you don't have the experience of doing so, when you don't have the ability to engage that institutional knowledge, well, sometimes you miss things and you're sometimes surprised by things like, why didn't I think of that? I said the other day, and I say it now, I am thankful we have adults back in charge of the Pentagon. Because we do. We don't have people concerned with what your DEI training is. We have made a statement, we are about killing the enemy until the enemy is dead. That's what we do with this military. This military is not here to look good in a uniform. It is there to do the job when the job needs to be done. This seems to offend some people. Luckily for us, we don't actually spend too much time caring about those people. We care about, with the best of our ability, destroying the enemy with the least amount of damage to us. We've lost 6 brave Americans so far in this attack on Iran, and it's horrifying. And I'm here to tell you that the left is going to put up counters of lives lost. No counter for the 13 lost at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan. I can point you to a million places where they will not notice the lives lost. I'm not going to pretend to not notice because I favor an administration. The people who do that, well, I favor this, so I won't look at that, or I don't favor that, so I will look at it. That kind of partisan crap when it comes to the lives of American soldiers has no place in our society. And the people who do that, whether they're on the left or the right, should be pushed to the side. They're disgusting, despicable, low people. To hell with them. We remember those who gave all for us, regardless of our political posture. But this is about the idea of the misdirection and really about the idea of what is it we're after? What is it that's actually trying to get done here? What is it that we're accomplishing? And is it indeed possible to accomplish 2 tasks at once? Do I believe we should have taken out the Iranian regime? Absolutely, and twice on Sunday. If you had asked me this 6 months ago, I would have said yes. If you ask me, do I believe we should put boots on the ground, I would say to you, that's always my problem. But I don't know how you crack the IRGC without doing so. As a matter of fact, I believe I said those words. I don't know how it's done. Certainly, you have President Trump with the threat to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Surrender. Lay down your weapons. You've got immunity. Nothing will happen to you. But if you don't, we're going to kill you. I don't know how you do that from the air. It has to be done hand to hand. What is the expression? In the end, all war comes down to the Bowie knife. Comes down to the knife. It comes down to that one-on-one in so many ways. How do you crack them without troops on the ground? And then we're having a conversation about troops on the ground, which is why I really do think it is very okay for Americans to be discussing what's happening and do we want it or not want it. Me, I do. And then I dismiss, of course, the people who say, well, then why don't you enlist? That is not an argument. That is the argument of silly people who don't want to have debate. I don't think any of this should be done for light or transient causes or reasons. I don't think these moments are. But this is the conversation about, taking out the regime. Taking out this regime, I think, is a good thing. Do I think it was right to take out Nicolas Maduro? I have no issue with taking out Nicolas Maduro. I'm only bothered we haven't taken out the regime. And I don't think leaving Delcy Rodriguez or anybody else there is valuable to us or to the Venezuelan people and does not help us with oil by any stretch. But it could be this is what you have to do now and put yourself in a position to get the right people in place to then make the next changes. Again, we think, I shouldn't say it's all of we, the general populace, how about that? The general populace looks at this and says, well, just fix it. These things take time. That's very frustrating. But once you realize, as we discussed yesterday, that you now have control of Venezuela in a de facto sense, and you've now taken out the leadership of Iran, you have now taken control of a lot of oil. Now, this is the way the left is going to paint it. They're going to paint it as the idea of, oh, sure, this is a war for oil. Look what America is doing just so they can have control of the oil. Well, better we have control of it than the Iranian regime that tortures its citizens and throws gay people off of rooftops. Better us than them. But what gets forgotten is that if we have it, other people don't have it. And we discussed this yesterday, that once you take a look at Venezuela and once you take a look at Iran, you realize the people who are hit hardest are the communist Chinese, which utilize the ghost ships run by the Russians, taking Venezuelan oil out of the country and then transferring it into Chinese tankers, then to Chinese ports. You have eliminated a massive supply of their oil. We know that the Cubans are already feeling it. They don't get any oil from Venezuela, so therefore, they can't refuel ships, boats, everything else. They can't do it. When you take control of the oil out of Iran, that is a lot of oil going to China that no longer does. This very, very thirsty nation of China. That leaves China turning to Russia. It's the only other place that they can go, and certainly they already go there. But what it really does is forces China onto the market. Forces them to spend much greater dollars in order to get the oil, and they have to compete for it like everybody else. Which brings us to this article from Politico. 5 charts show China's oil dilemma after U.S. strikes. No kidding. Thanks for coming to the party, Politico. We appreciate it. They have a series of charts here about the amount of Venezuelan and Iranian oil that goes to China. Venezuelan oil was upwards of 60% and had climbed that way since really 2019. Iranian oil, well, it's 87.2% because Iranian oil has all the sanctions on it and there's only one buyer of it. 17% of the oil that came into China came from Venezuela and Iran last year. That's 17%. So what happens when a fifth of your oil is now gone? What happens at that moment? They get 1.5 million barrels from Saudi Arabia, 1.4 million from Iran. Then they get 1.2 from Russia, 1.2 from Iraq, about 1 million from Brazil. Then it goes down there, Oman, the UAE, Angola, Kuwait, Venezuela. What do you do? What do you do? How do you function after that? Now, it should be noted, if you take a look at a map, that the vast majority of Asian countries, the subcontinent, are reliant on oil that comes out of the Straits of Hormuz. That is that little hook there off of Iran. And Iran's plan right now is to figure out how to disrupt the Straits of Hormuz to keep oil from flowing out of the Persian Gulf, right? How do they disrupt that? And the answer is you take as many boats as you can and you sink them right there to make it unpassable. That's how you engage disruption. And that's a little bit of what's shaking the oil markets about how that will affect things. But a lot of nations are getting their oil imports through this area. So yes, this war has the ability to shake things up for a lot of people. But when 20% of your oil comes from these two players, let's not think it doesn't have an effect. Well, Tony, what about oil that goes to South Korea and oil that goes to Japan? What happens there? Well, you're right. They could easily be affected, and they're allies, and maybe we could provide them some help. It's going to be a lot easier for Japan and South Korea to get oil from, let's say, Venezuela, considering they're our ally and we control the thing, than it will for China. This leads us to another point, which is people saying, well, great, now China can't get the oil, but it's going to increase our gas prices, and I don't want to pay more for gas prices. I don't disagree. But there's, and this has been a question that has gone on other subjects. If we in the United States entered recession, people would be angry. But we could weather it, right? People would be angry, but we would weather it. We can weather that storm, and you're not going to see aggressive protests. You're going to see movement in a ballot box, but not aggressive protests. If the Communist Chinese Party enters recession, how do they handle such a thing? They promised their people this, and the communism will give you that. And we promised them this, and you promised them that. Now you enter recession. They're going to manipulate the yuan. They're going to manipulate that. They're going to reduce the ability of people to do X, Y, and Z. And those people have a tendency, when they realize they've been sold a bill of goods, like any person would, they get a little uppity. We keep forgetting that while indeed China will utilize any violent tactic it can to put down any type of rebellion, the idea of disruption through that protest is far greater a possibility in China than it is in the United States. And I know we can point to the George Floyd riots. This is what happens when you don't put down the rioting. I am saying that in the vast majority of the country, you won't see that because of gas prices. You won't. But when a nation that loses a fifth of its oil is not able to produce, and therefore there are no jobs, and therefore the manufacturing is even further slowed, even though it was already slow because of what they did to themselves to COVID, right? COVID, oh, we got to lock everybody down and everything else. And now you can't even get the manufacturing back. Now people don't have jobs. See, we're inconvenienced. They lose jobs. It's different. So we take a look at what is going on in China. We take a look at the moves from the United States on Venezuela and Iran. You realize this could be a very interesting play. Anything that destabilizes the communists, I'm cool with. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back. There it is. Tony Katz. Tony Katz Today, guys. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Someone asked the question. They asked it on the Twitter X. So what you're saying, Tony, is that China is most likely going to have to do something to shake things up since we are choking off their oil. So my answer is I think the right one. I understand that what you're intimating there, that, oh, they're going to have to get rough and tumble. Where are they going to get rough and tumble? With whom? Who are they going to get rough and tumble with? They're going to have to buy their oil like everybody else. Or they're going to have to utilize less oil. This is their option. In either way, it costs them. Good. It destabilizes them. It makes the manufacturing harder. Certainly, they can't do it as cheap. If you can't do it as cheap, you bring the manufacturing back to your home country. Good. Anything that hurts the Chi-Coms is good. It's going to make them move to some act of violence. By the way, I don't actually think the Chinese have any strength whatsoever. I think they're a massive paper tiger. I got to get into some polling because there's some polling data out that proves everything we said about the State of the Union true, and I think all of it is now for naught. Because I have no idea how this is going to play post-attacking Iran. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Find everything over at TonyKatz.com. I will mention that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton's deposition regarding the Epstein files, the videos have been released. By the by, if you think that the hit on Iran is about distraction from the Epstein files, I'm talking about the Epstein files right now. To those people, aren't you embarrassed you're this ridiculous? I mean, aren't you at this stage of the game? What say you, Bill, Bubba? I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Clinton. Speak to us, oh Billy Bubba. That's Bill Clinton saying that Donald Trump was never involved in anything, and he never heard of anything, never saw of anything, where President Trump was involved in anything illicit, untoward, or wrong regarding Jeffrey Epstein. Just one more piece and one more piece of how Trump didn't do anything wrong. Just one more piece and one more piece. Shall we hear it? Shall we hear it again in his own words? Sure, let's do that.
The only conversation I had with President Trump about this was in the early 2000s. And I have no information that he did anything wrong. I just want it all out there. I want everybody to get it all out there and let everybody see where we.
Yeah, us too. It's not going to stop the leftists from calling him a pedophile, even though it's all debunked, even though the source is known to be a fraud. Bombed Iran to distract from Epstein? No, that was Bill Clinton bombing an aspirin factory to keep from the fact of what he did with Monica Lewinsky. I'm Tony Katz. Oh, did we all forget that one? Oh, you can't. You can't forget the classics, kitten. Oh, and sorry about the audio thing there. Oh, yeah, that's it muted. Sometimes when I go into breaks, like everything will mute and then not everything will unmute when I come back. So that's just a giant pain. The U.S. shutting down its embassies in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. Iran is engaged in more retaliation. I think we may have to do something about that. Immediately, if not sooner. All right, I do have three more things. Look at that. The market is coming more and more and more back. It's now down 450. Don't get me wrong, big number. Big number down 450. But It was down 1,200. Everyone just got to take a breath and a beat, man. Just got to take a breath and a beat. All right, let me see what I've got here for 3 more things. By the way, Landon, I know this story about nuclear and Poland. They're talking about nuclear deterrent and nuclear power. And so they're really engaged in it. We're not talking about specifically Poland and nuclear weapons, because bordering where they border, the Russians would lose their heads. But we should be rethinking our relationships. And part of that should be a relationship where Poland is thought of as the better friend than France. That's where we need to be. Let me see where else we are here. All right. Right on to coming back in a minute. All right. I am sure the Epstein files have nothing to do with this strike. So there it is. Glad we had this talk. Oh, good Lord. Okay, I've got this. There's the other story. There's the other story. Three more things. These are stories that should be dominating the front pages, but right now aren't. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. How you doing, everybody? So there is a story about the 2020 election that President Trump would approve of. The story is a hidden camera involving Joel Caldwell. Joel Caldwell, the director of operations for the Coalition for the People's Agenda. Well, there's a title that makes me want to run right through the barbed wire to get into West Germany. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. And this guy is on the record, on video. He does ballot harvesting, and he admits, according to the story, that they pay people to illegally ballot harvest, they bribe ballot counters and election officials, and forge and falsify ballots. This is what's getting reported. Here, that's what happened in 2020, says Joel Caldwell, because that's when the ballots, they started stuffing them ballots and people stuffing them ballots, and they got videotape of them, but nobody talks about it. That's why Trump was making that big deal of it, because you see it on videotape. It's like, come on, We see the man pull up and put 100 ballots in this box, you can't do blank. That's why Democrats fight to the death against voter ID laws. If you ask me if Joe Biden was elected president, I could easily say yes. If you ask me if everything was on the up and up, the answer is clearly no. Even when we look at Pennsylvania, where the judiciary changed the regulations for what it was going to accept for votes and when it was going to accept votes, the judiciary has no power to do that. Only the state legislatures can do that. And for usurping the state legislatures, every member of the Pennsylvania judiciary should be out of a job and out of a pension. Gone. We really do need to put an end in America to this idea that the judiciary is a co-equal branch. Marbury v. Madison needs to go. You aren't a co-equal branch. It's not why you exist. You don't get to usurp the legislative branch. You don't get to usurp their authority when it comes to determining the scope of an election and the vote. You don't. And when Texas, I believe it was, wanted to sue Pennsylvania, right, for disenfranchising Texas voters, you changed the rules. You're not allowed to change the rules, legislature. Therefore, we now have to deal with the vote that you certified, right? The elections you certified, the election results you certified. We shouldn't have to. You changed the rules. And the Supreme Court didn't take it up. And that was when it was either Clarence Thomas or Samuel Alito stated, if we're not going to take a case like this, can I ask what we do here? Can we ask what we do here? Now, someone in the chat room wants to refer to me as a snowflake, that I should be moving on, talking about the Epstein files. I've already talked about the Epstein files today. You're going to have to keep up. But you think I should somehow not talk about when a vote is irregular, when there are issues, when I have people on video validating conversations regarding fraud? No. By the way, I don't know what people are going to scream at me about my take on the judiciary branch, but I'm not the only one having this argument. Please don't think you can quote the Constitution at me and make an argument. I don't think you're fully aware of what you're quoting. We should look into all conversations regarding fraud seriously and aggressively. Absolutely. And this is why we need voter ID. And the people who don't favor voter ID, those are people who favor the opportunities for fraud. I have no respect for those people at all. You shouldn't either. Here's number 2. It's some polling, and I need you to take this with massive grains of salt. This is a Harvard-Harris poll. And the question is, do you think the country, the United States economy today, is strong or weak? Now, if you had looked at that question a week ago, people would have told you the economy is weak. I can show you the data points where they would say the economy is weak. In the 2 days after the State of the Union, strong 51%, weak 49%. The strong went up by 8 points. The weak went down by 8 points. That number is insane. I'm going to give you another number, but again, grain of salt, you got to hold. Harvard-Harris poll. Approve, disapprove. Registered voters, and we're talking about Trump's approval ratings here. Registered voters, approve 46, disapprove 49, which means Trump gained a point on approve and down 2 points on disapprove, under 50% disapprove. Likely voters, because a likely voter is different than a registered voter. All voters are registered voters, but not all registered voters are likely voters. Approve 50%, disapprove 47%. That is huge. Huge. Because we were seeing these numbers be down, and now you're seeing more and more approval for the president. So you see that how the numbers engaged a bit of a shift in his direction. Absolutely for him, sensational news. Here's the grain of salt. I told you when this data was from. This data is from, the source is the Harvard Harris poll. That's the source. Why you have to take this with a grain of salt? Because this is the polling that comes on the heels of the State of the Union, where we should be clear, Trump dominated and Democrats looked ridiculous. They looked like little children, petulant, screaming nonsense children. Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar did their party no favors whatsoever. You can't stand up and put the American citizen over the illegal immigrant? Okay. President's going to be seen looking like he's doing something, and Democrats quite literally are sitting on their hands. To the other bit of poll about the economy, I wonder if that is the case. Do people feel a little bit stronger about this economy? I think that there's a moment of inception and you want to believe it because other people are saying it as opposed to what you actually notice on your own. So let's leave it there. But all of these things happened in the glow of the State of the Union, which is now a distant memory, even though it was a week ago today. I was there in DC at this time because you have the hit on Iran. Everything changes once you put America on a war footing. Everything changes. You hit Iran, gas prices went up. The oil price is over $75 a barrel on the West Texas crude and over $80 a barrel on the Brent crude. And gas prices are going to go up. And I think you're going to hit, on average in America, $3, $3.10 a gallon for a while. I don't think it stays there for forever. It's going to affect how people view the economy. Of course it is. Of course it is. So it's a great number. It's a great number if you weren't dropping bombs on Iran right now. And for the record, I favor dropping the bombs on the Ayatollah and killing the Ayatollah and putting an end to this regime and truly ending this regime to create a better future for tomorrow. But you have to recognize that politically, locally politically, it's fraught. And that's my point. One more thing to get to. Tucker Carlson is a weird dude. He wasn't always. He wasn't always. But he is clearly broken. And there is video of him blaming Israel for Iran hitting other Gulf states. Iran bombs Kuwait, it's Israel's fault. He's doing that, and then claims that the Saudis and Qatar arrested Mossad agents that were planning to bomb those countries. This is what he states. But it's made up. And we know it's made up because Qatar has now put out a statement. Qatar's foreign minister spokesperson adds that there is no information on Mossad cells operating in the country. This comes after U.S. broadcaster Tucker Carlson claim that Qatar and Saudi Arabia have arrested individuals linked to Mossad. He's broken. That's all. He's broken. And if you want to follow that and take that seriously, I can't help you. He's making it up as he goes along. He already got humiliated in the interview with Israeli Ambassador Mike Huckabee. And now you're just flat out lying? Is he paid? I don't know. Is he broken as a man? I don't know. Is he a guy who needed Fox News to give him the guardrails to keep him on track? I don't know. Although that one's looking more and more possible and probable every day. But it's clear. He's caught lying. And Qatar, where he's like, I'm going to buy a house here. Qatar is saying he's not telling the truth. I don't know how much more proof you need. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Real quick to the comments, because this is a good one. You can hear the derangement in this guy's voice. My voice? I sound broken? How so? Go ahead. Explain yourself. I will tell you that I don't dig into the trolling like I used to and kind of mock these people, because it's we're past the point of interesting and we're now into the point of just silly. By the way, Huckabee got wrecked in that interview, man. Sure. You know what? You believe what you want. I can't help you. If something is just, if that's going to get you the honesty that Tucker didn't come out good in that interview, I don't know what to tell you. By the way, there is nothing greater than someone telling me I'm a liberal by the tone of my voice, producer Landon. I'm a liberal by the... Oh, he doesn't care if he's watched the show. He doesn't care that he's never heard of me before. He's like, hey, look, my comments on a video. I'm famous. Top of the world, Ma. Top of the world. I'm going back to the basement now. Leave my nachos in the microwave. I'll get them later. Well done. Well done, producer Landon. Good work. So, what are you going to do, people? What are you going to do except move on from the madness? There's nothing else to do. Nothing else to get into. Oh, poor Tucker. You know, I did try to reach out to him. So about a month, maybe more than a month ago. And I thought I had the right emails for him. But I didn't. It got bounced back to me. I'm like, all right. And I'm not going to go any further in trying to get with him. I'm like, try and explain yourself. Explain what this is. Explain what it is that you're doing. Explain your math. Show your math. But now that moment has passed. The Dow is now down 342. It was down 1,200. That's my point. People get worked up, man. There it is. There it is. Massachusetts losing a whole bunch of people. Not shocking in the slightest. And yeah, I don't know what a big wave is, but I'm told it's coming. Don't know what it is. All right, we're back in when? Coming back in 1 minute. Let's see what else we've got. Kristi Noem was speaking today and testifying in front of a Senate Judiciary Committee, Senate Oversight Committee. Senate Oversight Committee. And there was disruption there and protesters tripping and falling and all sorts of it. Let me see. Yeah, this is Lindsey Graham. I don't think he curses in this one, but you always got to be safe with Lindsey Graham.
Now we're engaged in military action against the mothership of terrorism, Iran, which I hope will sink pretty soon. Do you think the threat level against the United States is up or down when it comes to radical Islamic terrorists?
It's up.
It's up?
Yep.
So you mean they actually may want to come here and hit us because we hit them in Iran? I don't think you have to be, a general to figure that out. Is the Coast Guard without funding?
Portions of it. We're keeping some of the salaries paid, but
So there's no funds in the appropriation bill for the Coast Guard. Is that correct?
that is correct.
Because your agency is not being funded. It's the one part of the appropriations bill where we haven't agreed on funding. Is that correct?
Correct.
So FEMA,
Mhm.
no money, right? Coast Guard, no money. Really? Really?
That's Lindsey Graham, who sometimes you're like, yep, he's hitting that very, very well. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Kristi Noem speaking in front of the Senate Oversight Committee about what's going on with DHS and, of course, things having to do with ICE. And we forget that we are still without funding there. We are still without funding, and the country is endangered because of it. And yet Republicans have not engaged any messaging whatsoever that says, these people are trying to get your kids killed. These people don't want to keep fentanyl out of your kids' school. These Democrats, these liberals, these progressives, these Democrats, these liberals, again and again and again, they're silent about it. Silent. It's a total lack of fight. Drives me crazy. Now, as for this conversation of the big wave, President Trump, in a 9-minute phone conversation with Jake Tapper over at CNN, well, I thought they were fake news. Why are you doing an interview with Jake Tapper? And that the military is knocking the crap out of Iran. But the big wave is yet to come. We haven't even started hitting them hard. The big wave hasn't even happened. The big one is coming soon. I have no idea what the big wave is. Can't tell you. No clue. I'm not sure what it means. I think it's fascinating he went to CNN for this conversation. Why do you go to CNN? I thought they were fake news. Is it because you want to reach that audience? You want to bring them over with you? Tony, it's a very small audience, but it is still there. I thought it was an interesting approach from President Trump. I don't even know if I approve of it, but I'm more focused on what is the big one coming soon. And I wonder if Iran's concerned about it too. This is Tony Katz today. So let's see what I missed. Just checking the comments here. I do have a more radio show at WIBC.com. My interview with Senator Jim Banks, that is coming up, and I'll get that video out as soon as I can. Don't forget to go to YouTube and subscribe, youtube.com. Tony Katz, I would appreciate it. Liston, that's a groovy city. Welcome. Glad you're here. Glad you're part of the show. We stream the first 2 hours of the show. That's what we do. So we are back tomorrow at noon. I hope to see you there. Hope you'll be a part of what we're doing. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget you can find everything over at TonyKatz.com. We've got the daily show sheet is up there, a whole series of things going on. Check it out. Things you can't get anywhere else. That's over at TonyKatz.com. You want to be supportive? Great. It's also free. Happy to do my part for sure. Can't thank you guys enough for being a part of the show, for being a part of what we do. And keep the comments coming. Can't thank you enough. And hopefully we'll have a little more to dig into tomorrow than just Iran. But I mean, it's just so top of mind. It's so many new developments. There are other things happening, and sometimes we miss really important things. I mean, this is important, but I want to make sure we get to the other stuff. And I will do that tomorrow. I'll catch you then. Go to TonyKatz.com. Check it out for yourself. And I will catch you tomorrow, everyone. Take care.